Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Prize, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesis adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Viz, Del Borovic as Morgan Rolls, and Josh Halbot as Gideon Vega. My report shows that the Inquisitorial band are in control of a Titan. Gideon burned Blackhand and the Duke with warpfire before Attikus punched them to death. Morgan said goodbye to Voidstain and was given a bolt pistol, and Valentyne took control of the bridge opposite Chora and her demon siblings. Can these heroes get to Terra despite drawing the enemy's attention? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
Broadcast from Johanna Crix. There is a rogue Titan in play on Mars. We cannot be certain who is controlling it or what their goal is. What we can be certain is that this is blasphemous. This is an item, a weapon of the Imperium, and it has fallen into the hands of an enemy. I need all of our guns sighted up on it. I want a crater where there was a Warbringer. Having destroyed the echoes of your past to a large extent, with the flaming destruction of Duke Wixthorpe, Attikus, with a final punch from your vaunted power fist, you ended the mad attempt at starting a second Inquisition led by the heretic Octavius Haldoran Blackhand, destroying him and your fist, only to replace it with a slightly malfunctioning golden arm from Greybridge. Gideon, you're able to overcome your desire to burn all heretics while also truly becoming the last heir of Greybridge, having put the king, I suppose, down. Toby and Liza Lizardman sacrifice themselves to distract the crew and are burnt permanently into the back of the Duke, leaving a sort of perfect circle for Morgan, from a heretical aquila carved into your back to a holy one burnt into the back of a traitor. You now have control of the Warbringer Titan. You are storming towards the warp gate that will take you to Terra. And Gideon, you had at the end of last episode rolled to heal up Morgan's hand, which you thought was super icky.
4 successes, 5 advantage. So you receive 4 wounds back, but you take 4 strain if you can hack it.
I can barely hack it. I have 3 strain left.
We did technically just hit the end of an encounter, so I'll let you all roll to recover strain.
Oh, nice.
Discipline 0 difficulty.
Morgan's having a tough time. I only recovered 1, so I'm at 4 of 12.
Seems appropriate given.
Yep. And is her hand fixed? Or how bad is it?
Yeah, so I think he's using fire to heal things, so it's not like the bones knit and suddenly you're back in. I think this is probably your hand has been kind of poorly flesh crafted into roughly the grip of a pistol, and you can operate the trigger with difficulty.
Yep.
So I think what I'm going to give you, Morgan, which is unfortunate given where you're currently at, is it's going to cost you a strain to fire the gun.
Oh, okay.
So that's the only.
Attikus has no strain to recover.
Okay.
Could he spend this time assisting Morgan's recovery? Give her another shot at recovering strain?
Let me just check something, because I think there's... Okay, if you want to roll a medical check, according to the rules as written, the target heals a number of wounds equal to the number of successes and heals an amount of strain equal to the number of advantage.
Sure. So go ahead and
do a medical check. Sure.
What is your current wound threshold?
I have 13 of 13, so I'm not hurt, technically. I'm just strain hurt.
Cool. Current wounds equal half or less of the wound threshold to be an option, or, Tom, this could be the difficulty of the critical injury severity.
This wasn't technically a critical injury.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
suicide side. So, okay,
Yeah.
then this
This
is
is
a
a
one.
despair.
This is a 1 purple roll for you to assist with that.
Yep.
Also, I've got a ton of. I think I have 4 advantage. I could slide your way if you.
I would happily take that if,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
feel
yeah.
that's
No,
still
that
on the
makes
table.
sense.
After he
Yep.
like cauterizes it, he can show you how to.
Well, and also, Attikus, weirdly having repaired your own power fist and stuff on the battlefield, you would have a sense of like the mechanics of how this all works.
Okay. Oh, that's the one.
That's the optimal
Holy
result,
shit.
basically.
Holy shit.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strain
Seven.
recovered.
Holy shit.
Nice.
Valentyne at this point would say, Interrogator Chora, it's a pleasure to have you back with us. You have been missed.
Turns her mouthless face back to you and like kind of painfully nods.
Yep. Valentyne would turn to his Magos that he's got with him of this.
Yep.
Just say, find the void shields and make them active. We're about to be shot at a great deal. Can anyone spot the communications array? Just going to look around to see if there's...
The Magos points and just like scuttles over and uses one of his arms to just pull one of the dead goons off of it, and then kind of broadly gestures there. And he's going to go activate the void shields. You can just pop those. They're not, because it was under construction, and you guys didn't do my big puzzle of how to get the thing fully operational. The shields aren't fully there, but they're enough that you're not
Whatever
walking
we
around.
can run,
Not walking
we'll
around
run,
naked.
yeah.
You put on a shirt at least. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Valentyne would quickly jump to the comm array and just crank one out on all things, including the manual, because I think the blast from Octavius, I mean, the big corpse that got burned to death, I think his blast was pretty much out of every speaker in
It
every
was.
way.
Yeah. So it's still rigged up for that.
Valentyne is going to do the exact same thing and just blast out. This Titan has been retaken by the Inquisition. The previous message had been sent out by a heretic who is currently a melted pile of ash. We are returning this Titan to the control of Mars.
Cool. Can you roll me... I mean, this isn't deception, coercion. This is a leadership check.
I got a pitch for you, Tom.
Yeah.
If I spend a story point, just enough confusion for us to not be fired on from orbit.
The orbit thing I can't give you, but I can give you just enough to not get fired at by Space Marines.
Oh, I'll take that, because this would actually sync up with the story he told the scout. So that's actually the only faction he really thought. There's no version of anyone on Mars as a Mechanicus being like, oh, the Inquisition took it.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're also not getting Crix's, like, that's like a to her fleet kind of communique. But yeah.
No, he would have just announced that because it's like it matches his story to the scout. He also needs that to have been said on his name already got said. So there's going to be consequences, but consequences immediately followed by I am an Inquisitor. I am not the fucking Emperor.
Yeah.
That was a heretic.
You got Mysterio'd.
Yeah.
Bad guy yelling, putting your name on blast.
And then I think that's once he says that, he's not even expecting a response. He probably wouldn't receive one.
Yeah.
He would just give the Magos the Crozius Arcanum and be like, sharpen it in Polish as much as you can.
And I think in the moment while Valentine's running around doing all of that, Attikus is down with Morgan looking her over and stuff like that. And I think she has gone through all of this, is tired, but while he's crouched down looking her over, she says, Colonel.
Yes, interrogator.
Would you be so kind as to say a prayer to the Emperor for me?
Yes, of course.
Would do it now.
Cool. I'm going to need a second because Attikus are definitely no prayers. I don't know shit about that. Is there a standard prayer?
Not really.
You just kind of riff it?
It's all world to world depend, and it also depends on like the priest who taught you. In the same way that like there are a million forms of Christianity, they don't all use any of the same prayers.
Okay. Then before he begins, he will just like he doesn't have all the context of like you're asking him to do this kind of thing. And he would be happy to, but like you've never asked this before, kind of thing. So he'll take your badly mangled hand that he is still kind of working on. I think if Gideon used like pyromancy and flesh crafting to kind of give the hand kind of form back and gave Attikus kind of a brief tutorial on like what he's done to help him understand, and then Atticus's understanding of the own inner workings of his hands. It is, I think, a painful process, but Attikus is basically popping bones into sockets.
Gotcha.
Kind of just
reshaping it.
Like for those of you who grew up in the 90s, like connects, just kind of snapping things into place.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Just the bone version of that didn't
Yeah,
get me. The
yeah.
connects version got
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I like it, but ooh.
Perfect.
But he will
This
pause.
is a nice distraction on top of she needs this. Yeah.
He will pause and he will take that mangled hand into both of his, like close both of his robotic hands over it. One is kind of hot right now, but
Ooh, nice and warm.
Yeah.
Extra warm on my warm broken hand.
yeah, and he'll look you in the eyes and say, "Oh, what is it you wish to have me pray for?"
I suppose thanks for getting us through this incredibly awful situation and my wish that he will look over us.
A prayer of gratitude, always a wise decision,
Yes.
interrogator. O God, Emperor of humanity, hear us as we give thanks for your ever-watchful eye on us, your guiding light, your firm and unerring hand guiding us toward victory. We beseech you, please continue to aid your servants, your faithful, as we do more of your good, righteous work. You'll release your hand and then kind of like that's
back
like
at it.
that's satisfactory to him.
Yeah.
It's like you like look at you for a second, like not asking, but just like anything else, and if not, he's just gonna go back to
Yeah,
work on your hands.
and no, Morgan won't say anything else. She'll just kind of close her eyes a bit and sit there and let him work because it is like, oh, I get to be one of the faithful. I'm not a terrible heretic. I didn't get blowed up with the people on this site. Yay. And that makes her feel more buoyed. Yes.
So the Mechanicus is sharpening the Crochet Arcana with his tools and stuff. He's also operating the comms relay and just kind of like
Right.
clicking through channels. And then he turns to you and says, Inquisitor, I have tapped into the main Imperial channels just in case you require any additional information. It is a one-way communication right now, but I thought it might be helpful.
Excellent. Valentyne will point to Morgan and say, Interrogator, please instruct Chora on any advice you can. I understand you have Trin Rakai, and he's just going to take Eugene and kind of shove him over along with a cable and be like, you can plug that into the compass, and then Trin will have the ability perhaps to see what the chug is going on. I'm going to learn what is happening in the soul system. And he goes over to take is it a headset? Is it a box speaker?
I think probably a headset.
Right.
So, and of course it's 40K, so it's a bit janky, like big ear cups and like some extra
classic
janky bits.
1950s submarine style.
Yeah, with like a junk drawer from a mechanics, like an electronics shop glued to it in weird places. But yeah, you're getting... I mean, you could put this on blast, I think, if you want. Like, it has a headset, but if you want to, like, crank it out to the room, you could, or you can just
he
take it
would
personally.
start with it in his ear because if it's really fucking bad news, he doesn't want the rest of the ship,
Yep.
of the bridge getting bumped because there's a job to do.
Smart.
So he needs to know what the situation is.
Great. So you're getting scattered reports. Obviously, there's a lot of comm traffic about the Necron threat on Mars. Also, again, as you'd been told, there's a Tau fleet attacking various spots around the Sol system. There's scattered reports of Orc Waz making attempts at the edge of Sol. Sol is basically like a giant interstellar fortress. There's just fucking rocks full of guns everywhere since the Heresy, and of course the Heresy came from within, so like it didn't really matter. But like, unfortunately, since the Nocturnus Saturnae, I think the rip in space and time, like the big warp rip.
Cicatrix Maledictum.
Yeah, that's the one. But like the Eternal Night, where the Astronomicon burnt out for a little sec. Sol is like very vulnerable in a way it never was. So,
Josh, you not okay with how I said
that was
Cicatrix
just-
Maledictum?
Caught me off guard.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're nerds at this fucking
Yep,
table.
locked and loaded.
yeah. So yeah, there's just like assaults and distractions throughout the Sol system. But most concerningly, you pick up on what opened our episode with Johanna Crix of the Phineas' Finest Regiment ordering an orbital strike on the Titan. So you hear her kind of give the order, and then you're just sort of picking up comms traffic. Again, like the shields are up. There's not a whole hell of a lot you can do.
No,
'cause
we just keep
she's in
walking as
space.
fast as we can, which we're already doing.
Yeah. And then you hear like, I think you probably like tune it to her channel specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as
you need
got
to hear
that
what's
control.
going on
Yeah. And you hear their support saying, Commander Crix, we've got one of our escort ships is pulling in close, opening hailing frequency now. I'm not sure what's going on with them. He says, "This is Commander Crix. Ship Marnie's song. What exactly are you doing?" And you just hear a Captain Sharp, is it? What are you doing? And just hear boarding action. And suddenly the sound of gunfire. And she's like, "What the chuck?" And then so the comms break off, and there's just sounds of shotguns blasting and just the cackling of a voice up top. Valentyne, you start getting hailed on your... Have you turned your comm bead back on?
His comm bead would be on the whole time. He never turned it off. He would tell the rest of the team, "Oh, comm's back on, by the way." And if it pings, he'd answer.
And you hear a voice say, "Inquisitor?"
Yes, this is Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne.
Oh, Inquisitor, it is good to hear you. This is, I guess, temporarily Captain Troseus Ivanikoth of the Marnie's Song. The captain has gone off onto a little boarding action. He did not think they would be well prepared, and it would seem they were not.
The Astra Militarum are rarely prepared for the lesser-known space marines, as one might say.
Quite. Sir, we are doing our best up here in orbit. We have been waiting here for some time in the hopes that you would return. Captain Sharp said that ultimately this would all end here. So we are glad to see you. We will keep them from shooting you from... I assume you are the one driving the Titan.
Yes, you are correct.
Excellent. Well, Father Marcellus and our ship's doctor have all gone aboard and are wreaking havoc along with some of our new trainees. But rest assured, we are fine. Helmsman Smiggleton, you may take the ship around. Let's provide some covering fire for our captain as he does his thing. Righto, sir.
I greatly appreciate this effort. I'm assuming Johanna Crix will be a problem solved by Mr. Sharp.
If all goes according to plan, sir, soon the guns of this ship will be turned on this is a private channel, yes?
Valentyne just slams his rosette into the system to factor in Imperial encryption. As private as one can be now.
Très bien. Let's just say that Monsieur Sandor Rafferty is going to have a rather unpleasant surprise. You tell us when you are clear, and we will rain hell down upon him.
Wonderful. Death to the Crimson Thatch. Death to traitors. I'm closing in on a gate that will allow me to transit immediately to Terra. I've prepared files to pass on to the Adeptus Custodes and to the Inquisition. This is going to move very quickly, very fast, and in a very deadly fashion. It's wonderful to have heard from you. I will amend my documentation to ensure that they are aware that you are not part of the heretical forces.
Thank you, sir. Good luck on Terra. I understand the Necrons are within the palace itself, so be careful.
Ooh, good to know. This conspiracy is tremendously infuriating.
And he clicks off.
Well, interesting facts for everyone. A certain unnameable friend is currently storming a ship to eliminate Johanna Crix and is prepared to rain down hellfire upon the Crimson Thatch. When we make our way to Terra, we have allies that are already here. However, unfortunately, Necrons are apparently within the Imperial Palace. That, I do believe the Adeptus Custodes are fully prepared for, but when that is combined with an Orc war and other things, there is always a chance for a breakthrough at some point in their perimeter. That is what we are here to prevent. I will summon the Inquisition. I will pass along messages to the Adeptus Custodes. We will let everyone know everything that is going on. We can't expect them to act immediately. They'll assume we are part of the heresy. If not, so we need to move quickly, and we need to move for the throne.
Understood, sir.
Interrogator Chora. I would accept you as part of this band if you believe you are capable of moving forwards on this mission. If not, I also understand.
She hesitates, looking down, and you can tell this was meant to be a do them, do me situation, but then she looks up and looks sadly at the two of them, and then her eyes kind of narrow, and she looks up at you and bows her head in a yes, I will come with you way.
I have to ask this of you, Chora. Are you sure? This will test you more than you have ever been tested. We will be facing demons. We will be facing the darkest forms of corruption that will prey on your every fear. I cannot imagine what the last 10 years have meant for you. I need to know you are strong enough. Are you strong enough?
She gestures to the two of them in a very broad, look what they've done to my family kind of way. And then she points at Gideon and at, burnt up Blackhand and everything else. Yeah, fuck it. I guess she'll do this. This is so gnarly. She revs up one of the chainsaw hands and just kind of like girds herself and then just presses it against the flesh of her face, just ripping a tear in.
Mouth.
And sort of spits out a bunch of blood and says, "As long as he gives me the flame when this is done,
That I can guarantee.
then yes, let us move to the throne."
We'll punish those who hurt you, and then we will commend your soul to he himself.
And there's, she points at two of them. You roll me a deception check?
Here's the interesting thing. Valentyne has been thinking about this for a long time. Mm-hmm. Valentyne, because this is a conversation he was planning on having with Lyric, because the thing he'd queued up in Eugene was a bunch of speeches about how Lyric would protect Alto. He just pulled a recording of every time she had said that. But he had expected this to be a battle to the death where he would have to convince her, not weird, cowering mutant monster over brain flying, floating
Like
flame boy.
Yeah.
So I think he'll make a statement and then we can do whatever role you want. But you say, if they're willing to accept their deaths, if they know this, if they surrender, if they allow this to happen, then we know that they are confessing their sins to the Emperor for the crimes that they have committed and those that they may not be aware that they have committed. Normally, I do not believe I could commend those souls to the Emperor. However, we are in a rare circumstance where there has been a holy weapon that has been cast through fate, through darkness, dulled, dirtied. That weapon can pass along part of its holiness to them if they bless it with their unholy blood, creating a right to reconsecrate it here in the name of the Emperor. If they will kneel and accept a death at the hands of a Crocius Arcanum of the Adeptus Astartes, then yes, their souls will be commended to the Emperor.
And she nods through, like her ragged mouth and says, "Look at them, Inquisitor. They are driving this Warbringer Titan to where we must go to save the Emperor. Two forces of chaos in an effort to save him. Yes, they will. You need only allow Alto's dream to conclude."
Done.
And she kind of like holds out one of the chainsaw blades, and I guess probably honestly to you, Attikus, since you seem best equipped to unequip and re-equip. She says, "I will do it. May I contribute to the blessing?"
This is an interesting conundrum for Valentyne in a religious sense, because she is innately unclean.
Correct. I'll also say her mouth is starting to heal up as we're all having this conversation.
Ooh.
Gross.
No, she is most certainly warp touched. So,
Chora, I have great appreciation for everything you are offering here and everything that has been taken from you. But you are not pure. You cannot take part in a blessing of a weapon. To begin that blessing with impurity voids the entire act of its intention.
and she'll just nod as her mouth seals back up, making no effort to reopen it, and just sort of steps back, probably to stand with the arcoflagellant as just like a "then I shall be a tool" thing. But you do see a look of betrayal in her eyes. I don't think it matters to you because you're Valentyne, but yep.
Valentyne would just wait out the ride at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody's there. We know, like, it's that weird, almost pre-battle denouement of like, we don't know what the situation is going to be when we get there. We know we have to go through a gate. He's got everything prepared to announce through Eugene to plug a data slate into a wall and have it blasted everywhere. Everything is here.
Yep.
That he needs.
So you all kind of stand in silence as this massive war machine, again, just breaking through bridges and structures, crashing through things. And so the only sound is just metal rending metal and other things as you watch Lyric kind of just crouched over. And it literally does look like, someone helping someone to drive or like navigate over a shoulder. It's very much like a look, we're on a ride together kind of kind of thing. And finally, the Titan kind of arrives based on the map you had of where Nikos Manta's lab. So the Titan kind of like walks up, comes to a halt, and kind of drops into a kind of disembarkment kind of position. And you see the kind of like hollow boy of Alto just bring his hands away from the controls and just sit back. And the lyric creature kind of looks at this, and she'll just get down on one knee and put a hand on his shoulder. The time has come. What do you do?
Valentyne would take the sharpened and polished Crozius Arcanum, and he would cross over to the burnt, blackened bodies that lay on the ground. I reconsecrate this holy relic of the Adeptus Astartes here and now before its greatest mission. May it carry forwards the heroism of those who've come before, those whose names it bears. May it shine in this world and the next, protecting us, and most importantly, protecting He on high. I hereby consecrate this with the blood of a traitor. He jams it into the former Duke. I reconsecrate it with the blood of the heretic. Gets some oil on it as he circles over. He looks down at Lyric and breaks the cadence of this official ceremony for a brief moment with her, where he can kneel down and speak directly to her as himself, out of the hearing of anybody else, unless somebody's really leaning in, because it's a tense moment and we're all pretty close in this relatively small cockpit for the number of people. And he just says, I originally considered not shooting you in the moments where you turned as my only true moment of regret. I had thought that perhaps you would find me, that perhaps you could step through this physical weakness, and then you did not. And I find you here, and I find you with Octavius Blackhand. My worst nightmares confirmed, and yet, you surrender willingly. You acknowledge your own crimes. You know what you are and the price you must pay, and you accept those willingly. You are a conundrum, Lyric. I do not understand you. And yet, there is a part of me that could almost respect you if it weren't for what you are. You are a lesson I will not soon forget. And he stands up. He says, I reconsecrate this weapon with the blood of the mutant. And he smashes it down through Lyric's skull. She dies in a spray of blood. And he pulls it up. And he steps forward to Alto's strange, flaming interior.
Well, so like the body is still there. It's just like the head
jack-o'-lantern.
Hollow.
Jack-o'-lantern man there. And he says, lastly, I reconsecrate this weapon with the blood of the demonic and the psycho. And he just smashes it down and through the pumpkin head to rise up. And he raises the Crozius Arcanum over his head. It's covered in blood of different colors and ichor and oil and all of the above. And he says, this is a true weapon of the Emperor. It has slain all foes except the Xenos. When that is done, it will be fully ready. It is time for battle, friends. We go to find the orcs on Terra. We go to protect the throne, and we do this in the name of the God Emperor of mankind.
I'm ready.
For the Emperor.
Gideon nods and stares a little too long at the bodies on the floor.
Let's move.
So having sort of parked the Titan, you make your way down through some of the sort of stairwells and other things to one of the many kind of open ports you can make off the side of this thing. And exit out into, again, like the wreckage of a Martian research facility that this thing has driven into. So you've kind of just burst through the wall. The lab is a little bit further north from your location, because obviously you didn't want to like crack the gate, knowing that these gates are rather fragile. So you're making your way through the guts of one of these facilities. There aren't the warning alarms going off here that there were elsewhere. You don't see any signs of battle or conflict. You do notice a distinct lack of Skitarii, or there's certainly no Marines just in the halls or anything, but distinct lack of personnel. It was clear that this place was cleared out by duplicitous means before you arrived in order to allow Nikos space to work on what he's working on. You also can tell just from the quality of these buildings and from like how recently it's been painted, what kind of, the sound of the fans and ventilation is loud and rattling. This feels like a disused facility. This feels like kind of like an old corner of Mars that has been sort of rejected. Can I get perception checks from people who if you think, I know Valentyne, for you for sure, maybe Morgan. I don't think Gideon and Attikus would be privy to this sort of stuff, but basically like trying to suss out what the purpose of this facility is, I think is kind of outside the reach of the two of you.
What's the difficulty?
Difficulty of 2.
Okay.
Valentyne will give you a boost for having been in a lot of Imperial facilities. Mm-hmm. Morgan will give you a boost for skullduggery.
Great. That's the way she'd be looking at it anyway.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Would the auspex be useful for this kind of search? Or is this more about intention?
No, this is more just observing.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't a high stakes check. This is just observing what's around you and trying to make sense of it.
Great. 2 successes for Morgan.
Valentyne gets 2 successes, 3 advantage, and a triumph.
Ooh, shit. Okay, so Valentyne, I think for you coming from Inquisitorial backing, it's very clear that this is a purposefully, like, this is a hide a secret in plain sight situation where it's like, if we're going to have, we have this like immovable back door to Terra left over from the Emperor himself building an expansion into the webway. We can never hide that, like we can never protect this thing safely enough unless it just gets forgotten in the general buildup of Mars. So looking around, you're seeing again, just like all the markings of this being an incredibly minor cog in a very large wheel. But again, your paranoia sense, and I think Morgan similarly, like it's almost trying too hard to be ignored. Like there's like a bucket with a mop in the middle of the floor. It's like there's no way a servitor didn't move this.
It's it's staged as being
exactly
generic,
staged as generic and disused. With the triumph, I'm going to say that you can get a drop on the lab itself. I think that's a valuable use of it. So, well, I'll give you 2 things for it because it's a pretty big thing on a pretty small roll. Knowing this, you kind of come up on where your auspex and your data lab are showing the lab to be, and you are able, with kind of the cover of the noise and everything, to, I assume, send. Now your only scout is Eugene. So with Eugene kind of like edging around the corner a little bit, or possibly using psychoscience. Science or Psyniscience. Never going to work for me. You notice there are 2 Crimson Thatch Marines guarding the entrance to the lab. With the triumph, though, I'll say that between Morgan understanding how these sorts of places work and you knowing that this is a purposely disused facility, you can cause a distraction to draw them away. I think it feels like a good use of a triumph.
Agreed.
You have a bunch of advantage. Morgan, you had an extra advantage kick around as well, I think.
Just 2 successes.
2 success.
I have a social spend that I would like to use it
sure.
on. Valentyne's level of paranoia is tremendously high. And the lesson that he ultimately learned from Lyric, that he's taken away from it, is executing people who are tainted is the right choice. because you can wait and they will do the wrong thing as long as it keeps them alive, except the moment they are defeated, they will try to turn it around thinking they can walk away. And Chora lacks humility. To have surrendered to the Inquisition and then tried to make a deal for her siblings' lives means she's more dedicated to them than otherwise. He wants to know Chora's ultimate goal, because if it doesn't align with his, Chora's got to go.
Okay. Yep. That's a fair spend.
So he'd have been, narratively, he'd have been watching her. He'd have been mathing it out, seeing how she's reacting to the environment, all that kind of, he would have checked Eugene to be like, how did she react to the prayer as it happened? And that kind of thing.
I'm going to tell you what it is, but I want Morgan to tell Valentyne the ultimate. I think it's ultimately having to check with Morgan, given that you
I think you know, I like that, because I think what had happened is he'd look at it, he'd have trouble reading it, which for Valentyne always means kill the person at this point because he's made the mistake previously, but he would have his interrogator re-review the footage. So if we say the footage is good, he's got it.
No, and I think your observations are fine as well. It's just a matter of like, I would also chalk this up honestly to the interrogator-inquisitor relationship you've been building with Morgan, which is, I can act on my own. I should act by looping in my interrogator because, again, not even from like a, oh, cool, I'm being a good mentor, I'm good, be a good teacher. If you die, she's got to carry it. And if she can't carry it, she's got to convince these two to carry it. So like...
Yeah, it also comes down to she spent the most time with Chora. So it makes sense to be like, can you read this woman? So like in a brief moment, as the distraction is being set up, and he purposely makes sure Chora's got to be the one to push a button across the room or around the corner or whatever. Yeah. But like she's the one who has to engage with part of it or move a thing and just very rapidly run Morgan through like... My degree of paranoia around Chora is very high. She lacks humility. I saw anger in her eyes. I have these recordings. Do you think she can be trusted moving forward, or does she need to be eliminated? What do you think her goal is?
Okay, so, well, I have one thing I want to say just out of the gate before you tell me the answer, is that Morgan would look to him and say, Inquisitor, I entreated her to help on the bridge, and she looked at me and did nothing. She did not turn back to the Inquisition until it was in her favor.
What do you believe her goal is?
So her goal is like utility to the Inquisition in her final moments. Like her ultimate goal is to get immolated, burned. Well,
if we believe that's true, great. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it 100% is.
Believe that's
because you could tell her goal was to release her siblings from their prison and then off herself.
Yeah.
Now you believe her goal is, I have chainsaw hands and I'm a combatant. I might be able to have some utility on my way out. But her ultimate goal is oblivion.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that all she wants now is to perhaps go down in a blaze of glory, as if that would be some use or asset to the Inquisition now that her siblings are gone.
There is a time and utility for, lack of a better term, suicide weapons, but she has established a lack of bravery, a lack of effectiveness. She also did not assist an Imperial citizen. She stood aside and allowed us to take action. Now she wishes oblivion, meaning she will run into combat. She will refuse orders. There is no room for glory in the war that we are about to partake in. This is going to be ugly, it's going to be brutal, and it's going to need tremendous control.
Do your original orders stand?
Eliminate her.
Morgan's turn around with the bolt pistol and shoot Chora in the head.
Great. So as Chora activates cuts, presumably because she's only got chainsaw hands, she can only do so much, cuts through cabling that sets off an electric, shuts off a fan on the far side of the building or whatever. Turns back around to Beryl, and eyes just go wide as the bolt blows her head off.
Excellent. Time to move through the gate, everyone.
Or Gideon. What happened?
I think Gideon is going to look to Attikus, like he's shocked by it, and then he looks to Attikus to see if Attikus is also shocked by this at all.
He's like picking his nose, he doesn't care.
He has no, so he looks back to the corpse and is just thankful it's not him. I think at this point, he's realizing that shit is starting to get serious.
Valentyne misreads the situation and goes, do you want to burn it? She was a heretic in the end. We discovered she was only here because she wanted to die, perhaps gloriously, but certainly not to protect the Emperor. That's why she had to go. Her own goals did not align with ours. I don't need anyone here to die heroically. I need us to succeed.
Yes. Yes,
Burn
I would
it.
like that very much.
Burn it for the Emperor.
And he's just going to get up in that.
Yep.
Get up in there.
I'm having the best time ever. This is what it's about, baby. This is my fornication. Yeah.
This is my fornication.
Yeah. I think we got a new T-shirt. All right.
Anything else on the side?
No,
just
I'm not.
just
I'm not.
making sure,
I got to admit, I'm not really involved in this part of the story.
Yep.
This is just kind of. You guys seem like you got some shit going on. So no, I'm an observer. I'm just watching.
Gideon's going to just get in there and just give her the old regular churn and burn. 1 success and a whole bunch of advantage. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 advantage.
Wow. All right. So
Wow.
you torch the body, and again, you've shaken off the trauma, but a little bit of the enjoyment remains, and you can just refill your your
Type my
strain.
strain up.
Yep.
So I think there's still like 7 advantage floating around over there, and then Gideon is just lingering over top of that body in a way that is unusual for him, and that same kind of weird little like.
Valentyne is just pleased to see that Gideon's starting to enjoy doing his job. You know, like
Yeah.
a joyous servant of the Emperor is a good thing. And he's going to rest a hand on his shoulder and say, "Are you ready to save the Emperor, Gideon Vega?"
Absolutely.
Perfect. I have many more heretics for you to burn.
And like just pleasure washes over his face. That sounds triumphant.
And so it shall be.
With that, the Inquisitorial band turns the corner, rushes into the lab to confront one of the only remaining members of the Cabal, the arch-heretic Adeptus Mechanicus Nikos Manta, and to finally access the warp gate that will lead you to Terra.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features the voices of players Ryan LaPlante, Tyler Hewitt, Josh Halbot, and Del Borovic, alongside Game Master Tom McGee. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com. That's DELBOROVIC.com. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ad breaks use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR. All of their music is available at freemusicarchive.org. For all things Dum-Dums and Dice, including merchandise and how to join our Patreon, you can visit dumdumdice.com or find us on social media at dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: George Dolby, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Fire Unfriendly, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Stabby Stranger, Alarain Okapi, Madre de Gatos, Mithrian, Garbo Ape, Sam Schaefer, Waffle Marine, Dia de los Hoodless, Squishy Werewolf, Remy Funky Head, Accent Therapeutic Services in Florence, Kentucky, Lael, Jordan Oliver, Richard Wright, Brittany Fenwick, Megan Werner, A Man Out of Time, Curtis at FingerTechRobotics.com, Panda24NN, Shendra D, Your Homeboy Bones, Ellis Hatch, Odigenous, Kai Koa, Squire Solaire, Sandy Sassy Pants, Amira Lockhart, James Molina, Nick Hemsing, Alex LaFountain, Mickey Blake, Seth Cambron, Corpse Knight Silver, Adamir 101, The Dankler, Anticore 7, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.